Hello everyone, this is Josh with Ohio Urban Legends. Okay, this is the Ohio Urban Legend in my opinion. This is probably the most difficult to discuss because there's so much involved with this urban legend. Some confusing timelines, who is involved, mixed informations, all kind of stuff. So let's review it. I'm in Vermillion, Ohio, talking about the Gore Orphanage urban legend. Have you heard of this? My guess is you have, because it's one of Ohio's most popular, most documented, and actually a couple movies have been made about it. A burned down orphanage, a haunted mansion, a crybaby bridge, rituals and seances, Old Man Gore, Old Man Swift. There's a lot to unravel here. I'll discuss some of the basics of the legend and go into some details and debunk some of what you've heard. Now there's so many different variations to this urban legend, you might have heard something different, so please leave in the comments what you've heard. Okay, a great urban legend is only great if people all across Ohio have heard of it or have heard different versions of the story. That is this one. I'll try and stick with the most popular version. Again, there's a bunch out there about this one. So where do I even start? I'm going to mix in some of the lore that I've heard and fill in some of the blanks from some of the resources that I found online. There's a lot. So let's just start with the original owners of the land. Joseph Swift and his wife, they built quite an extravagant mansion here in the 1800s. Joseph nicknamed it Rosedale. The area surrounding the mansion became known as Swift's Hollow. He owned a ton of land. This is important because it plays into the Gore Orphanage legend. Even some of the mansion remains today, not a lot, but some. And that's where I'm standing right now, where the mansion was. Well, unfortunately, 2 of their children died at the mansion, possibly from disease, and Swift and his family fell on hard times financially, and they had to sell the land. Here's where the urban legend really takes off. The mansion was then bought by Nicholas Wilbur and his wife, who apparently were spiritualists that would perform rituals and seances in the mansion, possibly even talking to ghosts of the children of the Swifts. The Wilburs also fell on hard times, and depending on what story you heard, 4 of his grandchildren died and were buried here around the mansion, or they moved and eventually died. Shortly after their passing, the land and mansion would be purchased by Reverend Johann Sprunger, or John Sprunger, and his wife in the early 1900s. They came to Ohio after their orphanage in Indiana called Light of Hope Orphanage burned to the ground, possibly killing 3 young women. It was an accidental fire. The Sprungers built numerous houses on the farmland, or different buildings that would be used for religious purposes or for the orphanage. There are different stories where the Sprungers lived. Some say in the Swift mansion, or they left it vacant and built a new home on the land down the road. I believe it was left vacant and would be visited by teenagers checking for haunted paranormal experiences. More on that in a bit. Okay, so the Sprungers created both an orphanage, it's going to be the new Light of Hope Orphanage, and a religious community on the site, housing over 100 children. The former Gore Road was now changed to Gore Orphanage Road. Okay, so let's dig into the new Light of Hope Orphanage per the urban legend. That's where I'm standing now. I moved from where Swift Mansion was to where I believe the orphanage was located. As time went on, children would get caught fleeing the orphanage trying to escape. Why would they escape? Well, rumors spread that the children were abused, were fed disgusting animal parts, were fed out of the same containers, soiled clothes were washed, just disgusting. The orphanage was not clean, it was possibly infested with rats, and children could only bathe themselves every so often. It was just not a good environment for these kids, or so the legend states. Okay, so years went by and the state of Ohio investigated, but could only do so much. Nothing happened to the orphanage, and the Sprungers were innocent of wrongdoing. Mr. Sprunger died a couple years after the investigation, and the orphanage closed around 1916. The children were put into local homes or returned to family members. The land was sold and turned into farmland. Most of the buildings were torn down or actually caught fire and burned to the ground. In 1923, Swift Mansion burned to the ground. So, as far as I know, there was no Old Man Gore, no Old Man Swift, which some believe to be part of the legend. Okay, so now let's review the timeline quickly. Joseph Swift bought the land and built Swift Mansion in 1840. The land was then bought by the Wilburs in 1865, who were spiritualists and possibly practiced rituals and such in the mansion. The mansion was left abandoned in 1901 when it was purchased by the Sprungers in 1902-ish, who would then build the Light of Hope Orphanage. The orphanage would close its doors in 1916. Swift Mansion burned to the ground in 1923. So how did this urban legend really grow? something else had to have happened here, right? Per the state investigation, there was no wrongdoing and the Sprungers were innocent. At this point, there were no deaths of children, neither at the orphanage or the mansion. Nothing of suspect anyway. If anyone died here, it was because of natural causes, illness or disease. So let's go back and start again with Swift Mansion. After the Wilburs purchased it, many people thought Mrs. Wilbur went somewhat insane after her 4 grandchildren died. People say she would practice rituals, even talking to the spirits of the children at the dinner table. Or even the Wilburs' children, when they were alive, were able to communicate with the dead. Well, the rumors of this spread through the town about the rituals and seances, and teenagers would visit the mansion looking for ghosts or spirits. This is the start of the urban legend. It's dating back over 120 years. It's pretty cool. So that's kind of part 1. Okay, now for the orphanage, part 2. If nobody died or were killed here, how did this portion of the legend grow? The orphanage was in the same vicinity of the mansion, about a quarter mile down the road, and some confused the remains of the mansion as the remains of the orphanage. The story started to blend over time. More on this in a second. So, a lot of information. So I reviewed Swift Mansion and some of the orphanage. Let me explain some of the possible confusion around the orphanage and how that legend grew. Now in 1908, a fire overtook a schoolhouse in Collinwood, Ohio, known as the Collinwood School Fire, which is on a completely different side of Ohio completely. Unfortunately, over 170 school children were accidentally locked in the school. They couldn't escape, and they tragically all died in the fire. The screams of the children haunted the parents in the community. Some members of Collinwood, feeling remorse from the fire, moved away and relocated around the Vermilion area or all around Ohio. The legend of Collinwood possibly grew into the local lure after the Light of Hope orphanage burned or after parts of it were torn down. The two stories possibly combined. Some say this actually helped the city of Collinwood survive, that taking some of the horror away from the city there and transferred it to the Light of Hope orphanage here. Kind of crazy, right? So then the children that were thought to have died here were haunting the area, including a crybaby bridge around the corner. We have a really cool video on crybaby bridges, by the way. Make sure you check that out. Okay, are you still with me here? This is a lot. So, a mixture of cult-like rituals, spiritual seances, buildings burning down, the Collinwood fire, the possibilities of people dying and buried here, the tragic mistreatment of children, being malnourished, escaping the grounds, fed disgusting food, tortured and living in rat-infested living quarters, etc., 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 all built this urban legend. Amazing. So, strangely, a lot of it is somewhat unknown, except that no children died in a fire here. That is documented anyway. Paranormal groups frequent the area and experience all different types of paranormal phenomenon. Creepy. It's rumored teenagers are the reason Swift Mansion burned to the ground. Sad. Okay, that was a lot. What did you think? Are these versions ones you've heard? If you have more details, share in the comments below. Now please, if you visit any of the locations on my page, please be respectful of the surroundings so others can enjoy them for years to come. It would be absolutely amazing if the mansion was still here, right? Please like and subscribe for more Ohio urban legends. For paranormal stuff, check out more paranormal on Instagram and Facebook. And I want to thank my daughter Evie and my son Lou. They were both helping me today. Talk to you all soon. Thanks for watching.
Bye.